Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Astronomy and Coffee. Hopefully we'll be able to do this a bit more often if you like this type of thing, having coffee with me in the morning and going over some of the astronomy news, some of the most recent astronomy news. So here's the idea. We're going to have some coffee morning and go over the most recent events in astronomy, what you can find in the sky as well as far beyond that. So let's begin a little bit with this. Here is the nighttime sky. Isn't that nice? Well, this is what you can find this evening in your summer nighttime sky. We've got the moon over here. We've got our So let's put the south right there. So if you look up tonight, when it's just nice and dark and cloudless, you can see three very bright stars almost directly overhead. You've got these stars right here: Deneb, Vega, and Altair. You can say Vega if you want, but I believe it is officially pronounced Vega. So each of these three bright stars is the brightest star in their own constellation. So you might not be familiar with constellations, but you probably are if you're watching this. These are collections of stars that were dreamed up a long time ago by the ancient astronomers who looked up into the sky and associated their beliefs and their values and their myths at the time to explain what they were seeing. So let's bring up these star lines here. So here we have Deneb, the brightest star in Cygnus the Swan; Vega, the brightest star in Lyra the Harp; and Altair is the brightest star in Aquila the Eagle. Now this is a mess, so let's take that down. So yes, there is a story associated with these three constellations, which I will tell you right now in a very truncated, brief explanation of why we have a swan, a harp, and an eagle in the sky. So, in the ancient Greek myth, all of these stories were passed down from word of mouth, from person to person, from time to time. So these were always different, depending upon who you heard it from. So one such story, we've got this poet and musician named Orpheus. And Orpheus had a wife whom he loved quite a lot. Well, she died in the underworld, so he decided to go and try to bring her back. So he ventured into the underworld. Don't know how he found it. Went inside there, struck up a deal, and decided to bring his wife back to, the land of the living. But they told him that if you look back at your wife on the way back to the land of the living, she will forever disappear. Well, he was not able to help himself, and just as they were about to get home, he looked back over his shoulder, saw her, and then watched her disappear back into the underworld. Well, he was quite distraught over this, so he ended up dying himself, and once he died, his harp was thrown into a river, and this displeased Zeus quite a lot. So Zeus, who is pictured here as a swan, summoned his favorite eagle, his pet eagle Aquila, to go and snatch up the harp and bring it back to him. And the swan is said to represent Zeus because Zeus would transform himself into a swan from time to time. He had that ability, after all. That is why we have a swan, an eagle, and a harp in the sky. But you're probably wondering, why do we have this marker right there? Why do I have that up? Well, it is because recently they discovered this comet. Well, it wasn't a recent discovery, it's back in 1812, but we can see it now for ourselves if we have a telescope large enough to do that. This comet is called, let me bring it up for you here, 12P Pons Brooks. And since you probably don't have a telescope of your own, I'm going to show it to you right now. Oops, let's see here. There it is. Whoosh. And let's zoom in a little bit here and see what this thing is looking like as it is zipping around through space. Well, there we have it. So, let's talk a little bit about this comet, where you can find it for yourself, and what it is currently doing. Okay, there we go. This is the head of Draco the Dragon, another constellation. You'll find there is the Little Dipper right there, and there is Draco the Dragon You might know Draco from the Harry Potter series, but there's the head of Draco the dragon, and then there is the comet. Well, you can see this if you have at least a 6-inch telescope. No, it's likely you don't have it, so that is why I'm bringing it up for you here. So this is, again, 12P Pons Brooks, and it has the appearance of an 11 magnitude star. Now you can find this for yourself as it appears towards the head of Draco the dragon. So if you have something like Stellarium that I'm using here on your phone, you can look up and find the Draco the dragon, and then look over to his shoulder. I guess if a snake had a shoulder, I guess to the right of its neck, or I guess it would be the eastern side of his neck, and look for this comet here. Now the comet is around 330 million miles away from Earth, so if you were able to view this from your own telescope, congratulations. It's not going to be an easy thing to do, but typically if you have an 8-inch telescope, you'll be able to see this. But the reason why this was in the news was because it mysteriously brightened up a whole lot. It became much easier to find, and now you can find it if you have a telescope that's around 6 inches. So let's see here. So you'll be able to see this for yourself over the next several weeks as it gets closer to the head of Draco the dragon. Now you're probably wondering why we have it named Pons Brooks. Well, it is because it was first discovered in 1812 by French astronomer Jean-Louis Pons and was rediscovered by the American astronomer William Brooks. Okay, well, you probably have heard of the James Webb Telescope. Well, the James Webb Telescope has been sending back some quite beautiful images. Let's take a look at one of the most recent images. Actually, before I do that, let's talk a little bit about, yes, these dark stars it was able to find. We'll cover the James Webb picture of the day towards the end here. So yeah, there was a recent possible discovery of 3 possible dark stars. Now, the dark star name comes from the band The Grateful Dead. But anyways, these possible dark stars were discovered by a trio of astrophysicists. And these are stars that are said to be powered by dark matter rather than fusion, like normal stars. Now, since its launch, the James Webb Telescope has allowed astronomers to look back a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. Now, they discovered that some galaxies were a bit too massive to be easily explained. Now, they questioned that maybe these galaxies were not galaxies at all, but in fact were supermassive stars powered by dark matter. Now, discovering a new type of star would be huge, but discovering something powered by dark matter is something completely different here. Now, dark matter is one of the biggest mysteries in cosmology right now. Now, oftentimes astronomers need an explanation for why they're seeing things. They need an extra source of gravity to help bind structures in the universe together. So they invoke this presence of an invisible glue that's been around since the beginning of the universe. This is dark matter. So for decades, the leading candidates for dark matter has been what is called weakly interacting massive particles, also called WIMPs for short. That is weakly interacting massive particles, or WIMPs. Now, when 2 WIMPs meet, they can annihilate each other. They convert their mass into energy. That is, if these particles, in fact, do exist. They're theoretical at this point. Now, that being said, here's a possible scenario for these dark stars. It could be that primitive clouds of hydrogen would have been laced with WIMPs. As those clouds collapse under their own gravitational pull, WIMP annihilation ramped up and the energy released heated the cloud. Now, this prevented the cloud from collapsing far enough to reach the temperature and pressure required for fusion, which is what the normal nuclear reactions that power stars. Now, instead of having an ordinary star, the cloud would have formed an enormous dark star, powered entirely by dark matter annihilations. Now, one dark star would have enough light to compete with an entire galaxy of stars. Now, so far, the evidence doesn't favor these objects being dark stars, but there's still a small chance. Now, speaking of the James Webb Telescope, let's go back to what I was trying to jump ahead on, and let's talk a little bit about this right here. Now, this is going to be the James Webb Space Telescope picture of the day. We'll hopefully have some new pictures to go over next week. But this is the Rho Ophiuchi Cloud Complex. This is a small star-forming region. It's located about 390 light years away. The closest star-forming region to Earth, that is. Now, this is a chaotic scene resembling explosions frozen in time. Now, this new image from NASA's James Webb Space Telescope displays a field of about 50 young stars, many of them similar in mass to our own star, the Sun. Now, a region that would look black in visible light is revealed in the infrared with Webb's sensitive instruments. The detail in Webb's portrait of starbirth is, in fact, quite unprecedented here. The scene is dominated by a giant cavity that has been carved by a single star. The star S1 is more massive than our Sun, and it emits ultraviolet photons that have carved out a bubble. The yellow-orange color comes from tiny sooty grains that astronomers call polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Streamers of gas and dust form structures and textures unlike anything we have ever seen before. The striking large red vertical band is a protostellar outflow. You've got twin powerful jets of material that occur during the early stages of star formation. The projecting cone is the result of material that's been ejected through the jets. The entire structure glows red due to molecular hydrogen being energized as material from the jets collides with interstellar gas. Like most young stars, young solar systems also form in multiples, and we can see several brand new solar systems making their way into the universe via the very same processes that shaped our own cosmic home. So with that, I hope you learned a little bit more about what we can find in our summer evening sky here. So again, here we have our comet, and we've got Vega, Altair, and Deneb to look at. Whoa. Look more like this. Vega, Altair, and Deneb. And then you have found 3 constellations for yourself as well, with Cygnus, Lyra, and Aquila the Eagle. Hope you enjoyed this, and possibly I will see you next week for more news and more coffee. Have a great morning and a great rest of your day.